Professor Elli Heikkila. Have I pronounced it properly?
Yes.
Yes. How do you say it?
Heikkila.
Heikkila. Okay. Is the research director of the Migration Institute of Finland. She has done both her licentiate thesis and her dissertation on migration and regional development. So today she's going to be, she has also taken part on in many national and international projects, including migration and labour markets, multicultural marriages, unaccompanied refugees, and urbanization. She's also the editor of Migration Letters. She will be talking to us today about labour market participations and challenges, participation of migrants in labour markets and the challenges that come with it in Finland. So Elli, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Nadja, and it is really a great pleasure for me to take part of this nice panel session and having this keynote speech. I would like to express my warm thank you to Professor Ibrahim Sirkesi and all the organizers of this Migration Conference 2020. And I'm from the Migration Institute of Finland, as was introduced, and my topic is really today this labour market participation of immigrants and challenges in Finland. I have the slideshow here, so I want to share it with you. Let me see, where is my slide should be here open, but where can I see? Oh, there, yes. Do you see it? Hopefully. So that is my topic. Oh, yes. And I should, can I change myself? This is not moving the slide for some reason in the screen. There is some problem that I can't move my slides in the screen. What is it?
I'm not sure I know. You should be able to do it on the same tab where you upload it.
Yes, I have to share
desktop.
Yes.
And then...
And I click over here. Yes, and it should function. Now it is functioning. Great.
Perfect.
So here is the content. I'm talking about immigration flows and immigrants in Finland and giving such an overview of what's happening in our country. And then I'm showing graphics and statistics about labour market participation of immigrants. And then I go next then to the challenges in the labour markets, what kind of challenges there are, and then future prospects, because the population development will be quite challenging in Finland, like in many other countries, because of population aging. And now first to immigration flows and immigrants in Finland. This is from the 1878 up to 2017, how we have had these international migration flows. Earlier times we were very much emigration country. But and you can see the peaks earlier times to America, and then we had these Karelian evacuees. They were actually return migrants back to Finland because of the war. And then we had huge migration to Sweden. But then later on we joined to EU in the beginning of 1995. And as you can see from there, the curve started to go upwards. We started to get immigration more, and immigration wasn't so huge anymore. So it has leveled down, and we are nowadays an immigration country. We can call Finland is an immigration country. The numbers are, however, very small. Our population is 5.5 million, and you can see from the early 1990, the numbers were below 50,000 total stock of those persons with foreign background. But nowadays the number is around 350,000, and you can see in the green color the second generation. So we don't have very huge second generation yet, and not yet so much enter into the labor markets, that segment of population. And from where we get these foreign background people who were born abroad, and this is the development trend from the 2000s up to the latest figures 2018. And what is very interesting, first of all, because here are top 10 countries, and very often there are the biggest, the hugest migration flows from the neighboring countries like Estonia, what is there in the top 2018. Numbers are not huge compared to many other countries in the world, how they get immigration flows, but these are in the scale of Finland now. And Russia is the neighbor country, but Sweden is the neighbor country to the west, and there is only around 700 people coming compared to those huge numbers earlier times. And we have from those refugee background countries like Iraq, it is top 2 there, and India. These IT people are coming from the Turkey, China, Ukraine, and Great Britain, Vietnam. So there are very much same kind of countries. And what is very striking when calculating this kind of table, that when you rank these top 10 countries, you can see from 2000 that 2/3 of the people are going just are coming from 10 countries to Finland. 2/3 of all world countries, they are covering those top 10 countries. And then it is like 60% in 2010, and 2018 less than 50% of the people. And the total numbers in immigration flows, because these are now foreign background persons born abroad, not any Finnish people coming over here, return migrants. So it has doubled during 10 years, over doubled, and then 3 times higher compared to 2000. So the migration flows to Finland have been growing in a long trend. And then this is just what I want to show, that like this map of Finland is showing now the concentration of immigrants, and Helsinki alone, it is a quarter of all those immigrants living in Finland. Helsinki is settling all those people. They are living actually very much there in one city. And then when you calculate as a cumulative map, and Turku is located over here, this is now 50% of all immigrants in Finland, where they are living, what land area it covers. And next 25% up to 75%, it is this area, and the rest of Finland 25%. And if you look, for example, if we were comparing to the native population, it is the same structure, similar concentration trend. People are actually concentrating. Here is Tampere city. There is a triangle where people are really accumulating in our country. And the reasons why people are coming here, you can see the family reasons, they are the top 1. And here is the curves or bars for women, men, and total. And for women, it is 2/3 are the family reasons. And work-related reasons is a little bit higher for men compared to women. And we get these refugee status people around 10%, and those international students, degree students, and other reasons. So from the perspective of labor markets, these work reasons are still quite low in the development trend. This is showing the latest figures end of last year, that we have that only 5% of our population are foreign citizens, if we use this concept. And if we have those born abroad, it is a little bit higher, over 400,000, And the largest groups which we have here are those who were born in Russia and the former Soviet Union, over 70,000 people, and then from Estonia, Sweden, Iraq, Somalia, China, and Thailand. These are which have population over 10,000. And we received during the migration crisis in 2015 also, this was in Finnish terms very huge number, this over 30,000 asylum seekers, because, and mostly they were from Iraq, not here from Syria, but from Iraq they were mostly, and from Afghanistan. And a year before that, it was 10 times smaller number. So it was also affecting to Finland's migration or asylum streams. And what is this gender structure? This is showing the share of men last year. And you can see that it differs when we think about those source countries. And actually what we know, for example, from multicultural marriages, that Finnish ladies have very often spouses from Britain, Turkey, Morocco, and so on. And Finnish men have very often spouses from Thailand or Philippines and Russia and so on. So there is the structural differences among these migration background people. And age structure, this is very important when we talk about labor markets. What is this age structure like? This blue background cover here is for the whole Finland, what is our population structure. And then we have the bars here for all those foreign citizens. And you can see that these bars are relatively higher from 20 years old to 44 years old, much higher compared to the whole population in Finland. And then here are some examples of, for example, refugee background people, Somalia. They have those children there, and in their curves they have more children compared to Finnish families. The share of the children is much higher compared to these other comparative countries. And for example, Sweden here, because there is this elderly population, there are those Finnish people who have really moved from Finland to Sweden, and then they have taken this Swedish citizenship or dual citizenship, and they want to return back during their retirement time. So that is affecting to the curve in that. But what about this labor market participation of immigrants? I'm talking about some results from these immigrants and the labor market's experiences from abroad and Finland. And this was this population and labor force, internationalization of population and labor force from present to the future, which I had together Maria Pikkarainen. And here are the links for this report is in Finnish, and there is an English summary. And we have ongoing project coming of age in exile, health and socio-economic inequalities in young refugees in the Nordic welfare societies, GAGE project, funded by Nord Forsk. It started 2015 and it is ending end of this year. And there we have also something about the labor markets. I will show here for the beginning some historical trend, because it has been a really hot topic that foreign background people, they have higher unemployment rate compared to the total population in Finland. And our country was having very deep depression time in the early 1990s. Compared even to other Nordic countries, we had higher depression time. And you can see that it is like 3 times higher around the unemployment rate for foreign background people compared to total population. The curves have come down and get in the better direction, but still there is this difference. and we go more details to these different issues concerning labor markets. And what is very important to recognize, this is a primary activity. So and these are the top 10 countries by citizenship in Finland 2017. And there are employed, unemployed children, students, pensioners, others outside labor force, and the total number. And you can see that, for example, for Estonians, there is very high employed rate. This is not from the labor force, this is the primary activity from this whole total. And it is because Estonian background people, they know very often Finnish language, and it is very easy to jump into our labor markets. They have that talent very, very often. But we have refugee background people, these are examples, Iraqi people, they have higher rate compared, for example, Finnish citizens, 5% by primary activity, to remember that. And the children, in some segments you have a lot of children. In the whole total population, like Syrian background people, over 5,000 people are living here. The children share is 40%. And the students, quarter in both Afghanistan and Vietnam, pensioners, what I was mentioning about Sweden, it is the same as in Finland, but much higher compared to these other groups. And others outside of labor force, there can be like housewives and so on. But the Estonian group, it is very, very big compared to some other groups. And I have put here the highest employment rates in the labor force. This is now calculated from the labor force, and these are the top 20 countries. And this is the absolute, but this is the ranking in relative terms. And this, what is here, this is the ranking by absolute terms, from where we have the most in absolute terms in the labor markets, those who are really employed. Yeah, so you can see that, for example, Nepalese, they are nearly full employed, and we go quite nice numbers over here, very Western countries. And the figures, like what I was saying, Estonian background people, they're much more those people in our labor markets as employed people compared to some other groups. But we have from different countries people working in our labor markets, however, what it is showing. This is the highest unemployment rate in the labor force. And labor force means that employed and unemployed, that together, and the share of that, from that, how much there are unemployed people. And you can see refugee background people, there are very high numbers for Iraqi background and Somali background people. Over 70% of them are unemployed, and Afghanistan high, and so on. But we can understand they are coming from as a different perspective compared to labor immigrants. They are coming and fleeing from the war and so on. So it is not easy first to start their life in a new country. And it will take a little bit more time. And what is also discussed here in Finland, that as living here in this country, sometimes there is an idea that it looks like we have problem in the labor markets, just only problems, but it is not whole true, because we have really people who are working in many kinds of professions in our labor markets, but of course there are mismatching, that it is not exactly corresponding to education. But you can see here are the foreign origins compared to Finnish origins, males. And the absolute numbers are from here. And you can see we have also as managers, but this is very same, this craft and related trade workers, nearly the same proportion of that population who are employed, males. They are working in that sector, but we have in professionals also very, very many foreign background people and males working, and technician, associate, professional, but remarkable lower share compared to Finnish origin people. But what is striking is these elementary occupations, and we come later over this, but you can see the share is much higher. And actually I could say here that we are talking sometimes about these incoming jobs, and people can take a job which is not exactly suitable for them in the beginning because they want to learn the language and they are ready to take whatever job that they can start to integrate to our society. And but we come later to those challenges. And this is for the females, the similar type of, and you can see there is the same share for service and sales workers for Finnish and foreign origin females, but the elementary jobs is very, very high for females, but we have also as professionals and so on, a little bit as managers and in different fields, what the society needs as a labor. So it is very wide picture. We have professionals, we have those who need intermediate education, and we have those who need to have only primary education and they can find job. And this is an example of Somalia and Germany, because these are totally different type of countries, and Western country and refugee background country, and how these people and the absolute numbers, how many people were employed in Finland in 2016. And you can see that there is a really huge difference, that this Germany background people are really professionals, much in higher numbers, and we have more Somali background people working in service and sales workers, and plant and machine operators and assemblers, and in elementary occupations. So very, very huge differences when we look different population and immigrant background groups. It is not that we can only talk about in general, but we have to look at there inside. There are very striking differences. And this is for the Estonian citizens. And this is by education. You can see primary, secondary, higher education. And if we look, for example, higher educated people, they are as professionals and technicians and associate professionals, but then we go to service and sales workers. You can find some of them over there, and even in elementary jobs and so on. So it looks like and shows that there is a mismatch for certain people in those graphics, because all numbers are human beings. So there is a real mismatch also found, but also correct matching. There are the both sides. This is from Maria's and mine research, just an example how 1 year can make a difference. That this is showing women and men and by education, and the immigration year was 2002, all those who were between 15 to 74 years old who moved to Finland, and how they were doing in Finnish labor markets and in primary activity year after living in Finland. Even 1 year can make a difference. You can see there is a little bit higher this enter into the labor markets. And then what is the most important thing, what you can see here, is that the educational level, the higher the education it is, it can guarantee better employment status. But you can see also, for example, for doctoral education and women, there is a blue bar, it is a student, that sometimes those educational degrees are not matching to the country, for example, to Finland, if somebody is moving here and the person has to be going back to study a little bit to get the equivalent degree to Finland standards. But the higher the education, the better people are doing in the labor markets. And these are the shares. They are still very small shares in our whole total employed persons in Finland. Over 6% of the whole employed population. And for males, it is a little bit higher, 7%, and for females, 5.5%. And this is just showing the numbers for 2017, what kind of occupational groups there are in absolute numbers for foreign origin males. And totally there is this 82,000. And the variety is very wide. When you look top 15 occupational groups, there are many we can find in Finland from different branches, immigration background people. And it is really much wider picture compared to what sometimes is discussed. And building and related trade workers, excluding electricians, it is the #1. But you can see here these personal services, they are employing people. We have drivers, mobile plant operators. I can see in a real life bus drivers or taxi drivers, cleaners and helpers. In that section, there has been even this summertime very much discussion about this segment, that is it functioning for everybody correct way? Because we have also those vulnerable groups who can face too low salary level, for example. But mostly they are functioning okay and there are controls. But we have also these professionals, this was for the males. And for females, you can see females are, #1 is this cleaners and helpers. They are working over there very much, and personal care workers, sales workers, personal service workers. But then we have these professional groups and so on. So many-sided picture. And this is just an example of how this number of foreign workers employed in these selected professional groups from 2010-2014, that how the numbers have been growing. And you can see that number for cleaners and helpers, it is growing the fastest. And and also these personal service workers, there is need for those in the labor markets. But what we really know, we need also health professionals, and the numbers are still very low here. And I believe in the future there is much higher competition for those people. It is already now sometimes. And Finnish health professionals have moved, for example, to Norway and Sweden and to USA, to Florida area. But we have these science and engineering professionals. These were just the selected graphics. And of course, we don't have to forget entrepreneurs. And these are by citizenship, and there are totally huge differences. When we look, for example, Turkish entrepreneurs, over 30% of them are employed as entrepreneurs. Of the all employed people, 1/3 are entrepreneurs. But then we have, for example, Somali background people, they have 2% only of all employed Somalis. And then these other groups are very much the same as for Finnish citizens, 10% of employed Finns. But the challenges in the labor markets, and I was already mentioning a little bit these language challenges, and it is a really challenge, because the learning and having a command of the Finnish and Swedish language is an essential key factor for successfully entering the labor market in Finland. And this is for sure for other countries too. And of course we have, as employers, international companies, and you can have English there. I know also in some companies there can be used Russian language if there is teams working in Russian language and the supervisor is having the knowledge about that. So you can manage in different occasions, but mostly it is needed talent for understand and speak Finnish language. And scholars, though, have found that proficiency in Finnish is taken a sign of reliability of employers. They think like that. It also indicates willingness to adapt local working customs and maybe willing to integrate into the society. And there is also discrimination if there is needed too extensive language competence, for example, in a cleaning sector, that you have to know everything about Finnish language. But of course, you have to get learning for your profession, because all professions are very important one. And here I can mention one example. I was in the early 2000s in one other conference, and there one colleague from Denmark was telling that how important it is for cleaners to understand the language. There had somebody mixed a certain kind of liquids, and it was very dangerous because the person couldn't read what is there in the bottle, and there was a really like explosive liquid almost. So it is very important for all professions, but not demanding the full understanding of all things what we natives speak. Some immigrants have the opinion that if the Finnish language skills were better, the likelihood of staying in Finland would grow, because it is of course meaning that it is easier to integrate when you can talk to the local people and so on. But it will take time. Some people learn it very fast. I have been many times surprised, like somebody has been living here 1 year and nearly talks the fully Finnish language. It is from the person to person. But here are some quotes from Maria's and mine research, and the message is very, very often that even today, that it is very difficult, our Finnish language. We have also other official language, Swedish, and you can manage with it. If it is the language you know, then you can enter to the Swedish language professions. And finding a job matching with education. And we have this, as you know, we have the dual labor market theory, which is having these segments, primary and secondary. And the primary is like capital intensive, and it is searching for higher educated people. And then we have this labor oriented secondary section. And those jobs are sometimes quite uncertain and require little training. And what has been said that immigrants may be sorted into secondary labor markets because of prejudice arising from socio-economic distance, which is increased by differences in language, ethnic or racial origin, religion, education, and socio-cultural factors. And it is true also that immigrants, they can lack a well-functioning recruitment networks, which can be an obstacle to find a suitable job. Of course, when the time goes on and the person is here a little bit longer time, you build all the time your own networks. But we have also hidden labor markets that people can go ask for a job without seeing the advertisement in any newspaper or in social media or anywhere else. That people can just contact the employers that do they have any working possibilities. So person need to have activity to search also that way. And when immigrant skills, mastery of the language and familiarity with the labor markets and networks, which means social capital, improve, their social status will likely improve. And then they can take higher productive jobs. And then there is a theory of transitional labor markets, because the labor markets are not always like you jump from the education to the job. You are in an education institution, you finalize your studies, and then you get right away employed. There can be movement from unemployment to job and then back to unemployment. It can be like you can move from education, from the job to education and back to job, or you can go outside to the labor force when you have children or you have a longer term sick leave or whatever, and finally when you retire. But these processes can be repetitive. So, and what has been seen in this GATE project, this refugee background youth path from education to labor market has not been a linear one, but rather included several phases of education, work, traineeship, unemployment, and employment. So it is not always the steady one that you are lucky one all the time staying employed. Then there is this short-term and unskilled labor, which can, however, help the transition to work, what was earlier what I mentioned, that people can take some job which is not suitable for their education, but they, especially when they move into the country and they don't know the language, then they want to get the friends from the Finnish population and start to build the network, and then they jump sometimes into these incoming jobs. But it is the hope that people don't get trapped over there, that they start to stay over there in wrong type of work compared to their education. And then there is this phenomenon underemployment, and which means brain waste, that people don't get full working days, for example, that they work like 4 hours, or you get 2 part-time jobs or whatever, that it is not very good combination, that you are underemployed and you have to try to find the extra work, 2 works that you can live full life here in our country. So this is the skill underutilization, and it means also occupational mismatch. And then there is this involuntary part-time work, and it is becoming more common in Finland. And the jobs are in low-wage sectors, and there can be even 0-hour contracts. You don't have always the job, or then you are straight away asked to work, saying that, can you come here after 2 hours? We have here work for you. So, and those hiring companies, they have these kind of systems. But they are some kind of like bridge, hopefully, to come fully employed in the labor markets, that people pick little by little the talent to speak Finnish language and to get the networks, the correct type of networks too. And then there are these self-employed workers, and their share has been increased, and what has been said that the risk of poverty for self-employed workers is higher than for the wage earners. Here I put this Henna Kyhä's, some information from Henna Kyhä's dissertation. I was the opponent for her dissertation. It is from 2011, but she was researching these higher educated immigrants here in Finland, and she categorized nicely, but not showing very nice picture fully about Finnish society, because for higher educated immigrants and career starts, you can have different types, 6 different types of career starts. There you can have a stable career or stabilizing career corresponding to education. You can have mixed career and declining career partly corresponding to education, or you can have entry career not corresponding to education, or even that unemployment. And employers are as gatekeepers, and they point out very often this immigrants' lack of ability to speak and comprehend the national language as a significant constraint. But there can be also other barriers like lack of work experience, or for example, an inability to check and to recognize foreign qualifications, and cultural factors such as needing set times for prayer time, just examples. And they know, these employers, they know the content of education received in Finland, but they have very difficulty to evaluate the content of foreign degrees, and because they can differ very much from country to country. And there is also this cultural proximity that recruiters can feel closer to those who have quite similar cultural compared to Finnish culture. And then there is this push into self-employment. Ekaterina Vorobeva had her master thesis. This is from the master thesis, but I was a supervisor there, and she did a really nice work about Black African entrepreneurs here in Finland. And there is this like migrant entrepreneur is pushed to rather than pulled into self-employment due to labor market discrimination, dissatisfaction with working conditions, non-recognition of professional value, immobility, or lack of relevant skills. And she's talking also about this opportunity structure. It can differ from, of course, from the geographical region to another, and from the different ethnicities. When you look at those groups, they can have different opportunity structures. And as cultural outsiders, migrant entrepreneurs often lack cultural knowledge of the local social system and experience troubles in navigating through the complex legal frameworks. But what is important to have these consultants with migrant background who can provide relevant information. And there are, however, I wanted to rise up here the positive feedback, because actually there are very positive feedbacks from the enterprises and employers who have recruited immigrants. And they see that the advantage they have mentioned include their employers' diligence, high level of motivation, honesty, politeness, flexibility, commitment, and strong work ethics. And this is in those quarters too. I move a little bit faster if I'm running out my time. And what they say that they want to find the best ones, and it is all the same what is the ethnic background. They are only searching the best workers to that open vacancy. This is coming from different branches. And what about these future prospects? Couple of words from there. In the end, our population pyramid, it is really, it was in the 1950s something like triangle, but nowadays, and in 2070, you can see it is very elderly population weighted structure, very, very heavily weighted. And we have this demographic dependency ratio. And this is showing that earlier times, you can see this dark blue, earlier times we had a lot of young children, those under 15, and not so much elderly population. But nowadays, and in the future, it is more that we have to take care of elderly people compared to children. And also those squares, it is showing the share of those who are taking care of, are those who are working in the labor markets. And in our country, this is a municipalities, and where you have very high numbers, these red areas, because our problem areas are very much these northern parts and eastern parts, and blue ones are better, doing much better, because if you have dark blue 47 to 60, it means that for 100 people, you have to take care of only that number of people, and in those very dark red, you have maximum 157, and for 100 workers. So the municipalities are first of all living in different reality. And what is happening in our country when we look at those who are entering to the labor market, the blue line, and those who are exiting from the labor market, just look in these age groups in the whole Finland up to 2040. You can see that there is, even nowadays, we have more people going out compared to coming in from its own population. And this is for the municipalities. And you can see here that those dark areas, if you have 100, then you have even number. People are coming in and going out. But if you have less than 100, it means that you have more people going out from the labor markets than coming in. And there is a really, really huge need. And some spots which are very red, they are doing very fine because they have the much more people, young people, 20 to 24 years old people entering into the labor market compared to those who are 60 to 64. This is showing those top 10 which are doing the best and top worst which are doing worst. And showing, for example, share of elderly 65 plus. It is like in Helsinki 16.6 and Cvajner, which is here down under above total, over 40%. Or if we look at these migration streams and foreign background persons, the right-hand side column. Helsinki and those who are doing very fine are getting immigrant background people, but those who are not doing so fine, their share of foreign background people in the population is very, very low. They are not attractive ones. And also our jobs are those dark greens, are those places where the job growth has been highest and is still today. Those are our growth centers. And jobs are located in certain areas. And very often these companies and so on, employers, they are located in those areas where they have a more extensive labor pool, and which makes it easier to find specialist skills, and also workers benefit from a bigger choice of potential employers and better career prospects. And that's why we have that triangle here in Finland, what I was showing earlier times, because we have a lot of jobs within that triangle. And famous Florida, who person being and his production know, he is talking about that it is not only these kind of economic factors, but and business factors, but there has to be also people climate. And it also appears that diversity has significant impact on the region's ability to attract talent and to generate for example, high technology in industries. And this graphics is showing that when we look whatever region or city or municipality, all are geographically located somewhere. They have the physical resources from where comes these local resources. First, the location and all natural resources, infrastructure, and the population structure. What kind of population is there? And those stayers in place who are coming in within the country or international migrants, what are their educational background, population structure, even also these immigrant background persons, population structure and economic structures. What is there in the region? And there comes the local potential of development. And these are those regions attractive of and competitiveness of the region. What is it? Is it plus or minus? Flourishing region or vulnerable regions? And in Finland, we have these flourishing regions. This is from Maria's and my book. They are those growth centers. And
apologies, Elli. I just wanted to say that you sort of running
yes.
out of your time, but that is
wonderful.
Fine because Martina I'm not sure we get to, but I will have questions in the end. So yes, maybe if you can just wrap it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to show only thank you in the end. It was in the end. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.